right, listen up. This is the Music Scene Podcast. I am your host, Dave Kudrak. The other day, I had the pleasure of sitting down and speaking with Brian Westervelt Jr. Originally from North Jersey, he is currently an original musician here in the South Jersey area. Very popular in the open mic scene right now. We talked about his early days, where he started a punk ska band as a teenager. And we also talked about his songwriting process and what he's doing now. We also get 2 songs from him at the end, so make sure you stick around for that. Sit back, relax, and here's my conversation with Brian. All right, we are here with Brian Westervelt Jr. He is a local musician here in South Jersey. I've seen Brian a few times at various open mics. I have seen him do original music and maybe a cover or 2. I'm not sure. So what would you say your kind of musical style is? Are you an original musician? Are you a cover musician? Are you a mix of both?
I would say mostly punk music.
Okay.
Recently with I've been going more solo.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more acoustic solo stuff, but still with that punk energy and that punk vibe.
And are you playing your own stuff when you go out?
Yeah, so I've done covers in the past. I've always been writing original music though. So within the past few months, I've been on a bit of a writing spree, and I have
Nice.
a bunch of new music that I'm just excited to show with the world.
Cool.
So recently, I've been doing pretty much all original. I haven't really felt a desire to do covers just because I have so much, original music that I want to get out there.
Nice.
Do
Do you have any music out online, like streaming platforms yet? Have you recorded anything, released anything?
I do have, not with the solo act right now. I have a YouTube channel where I put up videos of me performing live, but nothing professionally recorded.
Mm-hmm.
I was 10 years ago in a ska band called No Vertebrae. You can look them up.
I saw them. I did a little research. I saw No Vertebrae, and then I also saw something called the NPCs, and you did a ska version of Fight for Your Right from the Beastie Boys.
Yeah, that was fun.
How did that come about? First off, what is the NPCs?
Sure. So so that kind of comes from No Vertebrae. So that was like a ska band that I was in. Started, probably 15 years ago, and we kept it strong right until about 2020 when everything shut down and all our shows got canceled, and we never really bounced back from that.
Oh, okay.
But there was another band in the scene called the Backyard Superheroes that we played with a lot, another ska band. And during the 2020 shutdowns, we were all stuck at home, and this dude Josh from Backyard Superheroes, he put together this group called the NPCs. And it kind of started as him saying, I want to do a cover of a song. I want to record at home because we're all sitting around bored. And it ended up blossoming into this huge project with 60 people.
That's awesome. Tons
of vocalists, 5 or 6 guitarists, I think, and probably 40 wind players or something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe 30.
Yeah.
So yeah, the first big song I wasn't in on, and the second song they did was the Goldfinger song. What's that one called? Superman.
Okay.
The real big one from the Tony Hawk games.
Yeah.
And then we ended up doing Fight for Your Right by the Beastie Boys.
That's cool.
So that was fun. It was a really fun outlet when we were all stuck home, kind of recording some music. I did a bunch of guitar parts, a bunch of vocals,
Cool.
And recorded the video, and he stitched it all together, and that was a really fun project.
That's awesome.
The NPCs, it's a video game term, non-player character.
So
the name was kind of
that's great.
We're all sitting there watching the news, and
Right.
we're all stuck at home, and so we all felt like a bunch of NPCs. That was kind of
awesome.
where the name came about.
I love that. That's great. So No Vertebrae came before that, right?
Yeah.
And you guys were out playing shows and stuff. Were you an original punk ska band?
Yeah, we did original music. We were I was probably 14 when we started it.
Oh, wow.
I was young, and we started with just 4 of us. It was just kind of your classic rhythm section, guitar, bass, drums, and we had a friend who played saxophone, and so we turned that into a ska band.
Nice.
And over time, we kept adding people. We averaged, I believe, 7 people on average. I think the maximum we ever had on stage was 9.
Oh, cool.
It was nuts. it was very difficult to wrangle that many people, but it was fun.
Yeah.
So I think I was about 16 the first time we played at a bar.
Oh, wow.
Which was crazy too. They put like the X's on my hands. I wasn't allowed to go drink.
Was everybody else in the band like the same age, or were you the youngest one?
So the youngest was actually our trombone player. She was 15. And I might have been the oldest.
Oh, really? Wow.
There might have been, I'm trying to think, our saxophone player might have been, no, he's a little younger than me. I think I was the oldest.
Okay. Nice.
Which is crazy.
Wow.
So we did write original music. Towards the beginning of that band, we did a lot of covers because we would get a lot of half-hour sets or 45-minute sets, and we just did not have enough original music to fill it.
Sure.
But towards the later end of that band, when I was like 17, 18, we had written enough music, and we would do these full original sets. And a handful of songs from that band I still play as a solo musician.
Very cool.
Like kind of newer, more grown up, versions of these songs.
Okay.
There's two that I play a bunch. They're called Waiting and Smirk. And then recently I pulled out a few more just to kind of bolster the library.
Cool.
And they've been pretty fun.
Very cool. So who was all in, if you remember all the band members, who was all in No Vertebrae?
Oh yeah. So there's a few eras of No Vertebrae, because that band lasted like 10 years.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Era, towards the beginning of it, I was guitar and vocals. My brother, Andrew, played bass, and he did vocals as well. And our really close friend, Ian, was saxophone player, and we had our other friend, Casey, was playing drums. And so we were a 4-piece. And then later, maybe a few years later, we added... we'll see if I can get this right. We had 2 friends who were sisters, Allison and Kara. They played mellophone and trombone.
Mellophone?
So
What's
mellophone is a marching French horn. It actually looks like a trumpet.
Okay.
But like a really big trumpet
with
a dinner plate. I actually marched mellophone in marching band.
Oh, cool.
That's why I wanted one in the band. I thought it would have made way more sense for her to play trumpet, but the mellophone was cool. So, so we took it.
That's awesome.
And then I'm missing one more. We had our other friend Christina on saxophone.
Okay, cool.
And then later on in the lifetime of the band, we actually ended up totally redoing it as everyone went off to college, and it was really difficult to get everyone around. So my brother and I stuck, but then we pulled in 2 completely new people, Frank and Luke, to play drums and bass for us.
Cool.
So that was kind of like the last bit. We did that for like 4 years, the 4 of like that last group of 4, and then 2020 went to be the NBCs. When I was probably 10 or 11, and I wanted to see Less Than Jake.
Oh yeah,
which was like one of my favorite bands at the time. And so my parents were going to go because they were also like punk ska fans, and my brother and I convinced them to bring us. So here we are, these 2 tiny kids at a Less Than Jake show. But one of the coolest pieces was that one of the openers on that show was a band called Big D and the Kids Table.
Okay.
And at the time I didn't play guitar at all, but maybe 4 years later, we opened for that band, Big D and the Kids Table.
No way, really?
And that was sick, getting that email saying, oh, we want you to open for this band. And it's like this band that I saw, the first time I went to a punk show was that band.
That's amazing.
And I've been listening to their music. It was kind of starstruck, it was like, it's a band I heard of before I started playing guitar, and I get to open for them. This is nuts.
That's fantastic.
Right. Yeah. That was a big moment for me.
Very cool. What was that venue? Where was that show at?
So that was, I grew up in North Jersey, Sussex County. So there's a bar up there. Well, there's a town called Stanhope, and they have a bar there called the Stanhope House. Okay. Which was pretty close to where I grew up. So we ended up opening for them there. Cool. And we returned to that venue, I don't even know how many times. Yeah. Opening for a bunch of different ska bands.
Really? That's cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
If you don't listen to ska, you probably don't know any of these bands. But if you do listen to ska, you're about to be so impressed. I remember Josh last week. He said ska was big for 15 minutes, but I disagree. It's been big my whole life.
well, hopefully he's listening.
Yeah. Anyway, but besides Big D, there's Mustard Plug, another band I really love. Okay. The Slackers, the Toasters, and probably one of the coolest ones, the Scotalites.
Scotalites, okay.
Which is a band that is sometimes credited with inventing ska.
Oh, really?
And they're like, I believe they live in Jamaica still, and they flew over.
Oh, wow.
So that was a really sick one.
Yeah.
Just being like these guys invented it. What is this? Like, yeah, they got us back a bunch, and that was a super super fun thing to do as a kid. You know,
that's awesome.
Get home from high school, finish my homework.
Right.
Run out to the bar and play music. Get the X's on my hands. I wasn't allowed to drink. I was like 16, 17.
Yep. That's fantastic, man.
Yeah,
I'm so jealous of that story.
That was like, I didn't know how good I had it.
Yeah, right.
It was super, super fun.
So where do your like musical roots come from? Were you in like the high school marching band, or were you into music prior to that?
Yeah, I started trumpet, actually, 4th grade.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
I just really wanted to play trumpet. And then...
Why?
I just wanted to play an instrument. I don't really remember why or how I picked the trumpet. I just remember them saying, you could pick an instrument if you want. You have to skip recess once a week. And I just remember thinking, this is the greatest thing ever. I want to play music.
Nice.
And I just kind of went in on it. It wasn't for quite a few years later that I picked up a guitar for the first time.
Okay.
I wanted to start a ska band because I was a trumpet player. And I was trying to get a few friends together, and I was going to be the trumpet player in the ska band. And we were in my friend's basement, and at some point I picked up his guitar, and I held it for like maybe 10 seconds, and I said, "No, this is my instrument." And
really?
I went home and I told my parents, like, I need a guitar.
That's awesome.
I think I was 12. I was like, please, can I have one?
That's great. So where did the ska influence come from?
That was definitely from my dad.
Okay.
I remember. I forget how old I was, but I remember he gave me a stack of CDs, and it was a lot of punk music. There was a Bouncing Souls record in there. There was a Presidents of the United States of America record in there, that kind of stuff. And so I got really into punk music really young, and I still am to this day. Yep. But at the time I was playing trumpet, I wasn't playing guitar. I was like, I want to play punk music, but I'm not playing guitar, I'm not playing drums, what do I do? And so ska was kind of that bridge. Especially like the third wave ska bands like Real Big Fish, that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Like they're playing pop punk, but there's trumpet in it, there's saxophone in it. Nice. There's a spot for me. And then even after I switched to guitar, I was still into that music. And I was in the marching band, and so we stole a bunch of people from marching band.
Cool.
You play trumpet, you play saxophone,
right.
Come join our band.
That's awesome. Once you started playing guitar, where did it kind of go from there?
Through being in that band, No Vertebrae, I stuck with ska pretty hardcore. But recently, I've definitely gotten more into plain old punk, like some of the newer punk bands, and
like
a little bit more hardcore stuff too. Like Jeff Rosenstock would be like a big one.
Okay.
Chris Farron, he's some people would say he's not punk. I think he is. I think his lyrics are very punk rock.
Okay.
One of my favorite bands forever and always is the Bouncing Souls. They're like classic Jersey punk band. They've been doing it for like 30 years. I mean, I've seen them like 50 times.
Really?
And,
nice.
Just a lot of fun stuff. Their bass player is a tattoo artist, and he put their band logo on all 4 of my family members.
Really?
We all visited him, and we all took turns, and one after the other, he put their logo on all 4 of us.
That's awesome.
So they're just a great band.
That's fantastic. That's great. So now you mentioned your brother played bass in No Vertebrae.
Yeah.
Is he the one that he's a Marine? Is that
he's in the Army? And so he's currently deployed.
Yeah.
So but before he deployed, I mean, I was doing a lot of collaboration with him. We were playing open mic nights together and doing a lot of music together. Okay. And so he'll be back around about summertime. And cool. I'm really looking forward to that because collaborating with him has been a lot of fun. And nice. He plays guitar. He's an excellent bassist, excellent drummer. And so I've actually been thinking about, do I want to record some music? What do I want to do here? And I'm thinking about actually waiting for him to come back because I kind of want to record with him.
Yeah, and you won't have to hire a session musician.
Exactly, because I can kind of play drum kit, but only kind of. He can actually.
Let's talk a little bit about your writing process, right? So you've got a bunch of songs that you've written either with the band, or I'm assuming you've got some that you've written solo as well. What does that writing process look like? Do you just kind of come up with like a riff or a melody first? Do you come up with lyrics first?
So it ends up being different every time. Historically, I would kind of come up with a chord progression, come up with words, and then just kind of go with that. but I found that I would end up with these weird monotone. I was never super happy with it. So recently I've been trying to, it's weird. I come up with guitar parts, melodies, and vocals, or like lyrics, 3 separate pieces. And then I try to somehow marry the 3 of them together.
Okay.
Sometimes they are very far apart, meaning like I'll write a guitar part and then just forget about it for 2 years.
Right,
and then write lyrics and then be like, and marry them together.
That's cool. Nice.
So it's been fun. It's definitely different every time, but I feel like that gives you the variety.
Nice.
You know, if you do the same process every time, you're going to come up with the same songs a bunch of times over and over again, which I don't know. Sometimes that works for people, but for me, I get bored.
Okay.
I really want to do different stuff all the time.
Nice. And I assume you've got the musical like theory from being in marching band and stuff, right? I mean, how much theory do you know? Do you know a lot of music theory?
A decent amount. My high school had a theory class.
Oh, okay.
So I took that, and I took like an independent study and studied AP music theory.
Oh, nice.
Just kind of for fun. So I know a decent chunk. Definitely not as hardcore as some.
Sure.
But just basics of like chord theory, that kind of stuff, like very basic stuff.
Right.
Which it can help with the writing. Sometimes it gets in the way. Does it? Because you're thinking too hard about the math, and there's less emotion to it.
Oh, okay. I guess that makes sense. Yep.
Sometimes it's a useful tool. Sometimes you actually kind of want to turn the brain off and just let something go out, right? Especially if you're trying to write an emotional song or something, you really want to just get your feelings out there and not worry too much. Like, oh, is this like a 5 chord? Like, no.
Right.
Get that out of there.
Well, so then does the math come together if, like, let's say you're trying to piece together a chord progression with like a melody that you've got for lyrics? Do you then kind of fall back on the music theory, or is it just kind of whatever you feel works?
I find that for the guitar parts, I'll use theory, but for vocal parts, I pretty much never do. Oh, yeah? That's pretty much all by ear for me. Okay. And I try pretty hard to, at least recently, I've been trying to go for like the catchy, pop punky kind of vocals. I've been enjoying them a lot. I feel like it adds a little flair. Sometimes, like the cadence of how those melodies I write go, they don't really match with the words. It makes it a little bit difficult to understand the words. And sometimes I have to decide if I want to do that, because the words are really important. I want to get them out. Sure. I don't want to try to hide them. And other times I think, the melody is a little bit more important. My mind changes on that day to day sometimes.
Right. Do you have some kind of objective when you're writing? And I guess what I mean is, I'm not a huge songwriter, but I've got a handful of my own songs. But I do find myself wanting to write a catchy hook or something, or a memorable sing-along type chorus. When I'm writing, I sometimes envision the crowd, the imaginary crowd, just singing along, like when you get to the chorus or something, right? So do you have any kind of objective like that when you're writing?
Recently, no.
No?
I've been more on the camp of, just get it out and get it done. Okay. If I don't like it, I can always change it. I can always tweak it. I can stop playing it. Sure. But I try to not get myself stuck in that. Like, the song is technically complete. It's got a verse and a chorus, but I don't want to play it because it's like missing that something. Like, no, I want it out. Okay. And I oftentimes will go back and revisit a song after a few months and change some words around, add a new ending, add some, but I do try to push him out the door. And I find that's been really good for the creative process. Yeah,
and you know Michael Songs. He was in here a couple of weeks ago, and he's got a similar approach. We talked about his songwriting, and he will write songs kind of in the moment, and he will finish them. I don't want to say as quickly as possible, but he'll finish them in a short period of time. He's a prolific songwriter. I mean, he says he's written over 1,000 songs, which is amazing. But then even after, like, if he were to record and release it, but then play it live like 6 months later or a year later, he may change it, and that's okay with him, right? Yep. Which was a little bit foreign to me, because a lot of times when I write a song, it takes me a long time to actually feel like it's finished. And then once it's finished, I am usually hell bent on not changing anything about it.
Really?
I play it the exact same way every time I play it. But
do you know why you have that?
I grew up listening to AC/DC. Their music, it's blues-based rock, right? Hard rock, if you want to call it. But like it was verse, chorus, guitar solo, chorus, end. Like it's every song
Formula.
has pretty much the same structure, you know? And I think I got so locked into that's what it's supposed to be that I've never really wanted to deviate from it or have a hard time deviating from it if it comes naturally. Like I've got one song that doesn't really have structure to it. It just feels like a whole bunch of verses stacked up. And then I sing one of the verses a little bit differently. So I'm like, all right, well, that's technically my chorus then. You know what I mean? So,
Fair.
But it's a hard thing for me to like break through mentally to say like, yeah, that song is done, you know?
A lot of my songs don't have any sort of conventional structure to them.
Okay.
You know, like
I'm so fascinated by
I've tried
that
to play
stuff
with
because it's so different the way from like when I spoke to Michael Songs, you know, same, like I was fascinated with how he was telling me that he writes, which same, like I'm fascinated with what you're telling me because it's like, wait a second, like here's another guy that does it completely different the way that I do.
Sometimes it's fun to screw around and try to break formulas, right? Because I don't know, the formulas are there for a reason. They work.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's fun. Like sometimes the one song I wrote, it's called "Do It." I was just like, the song's gonna have two choruses. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I just feel like it. I don't think I've ever heard of a song having two choruses before.
Right.
And you know, it's a fun one to play. I mean, it's definitely it doesn't have the same impact as if you have one, because you know, if you have one chorus, everyone learns that, everyone sings along to it.
Yep.
But you know what? Sometimes it's fun to be a little different. You know, do your own thing.
I love that. Now that you're on kind of this solo journey, still writing original music, still performing original music, what's kind of the next step for you? Like, is there an objective in what you're doing now?
You know, that's a soul searching piece that I'm trying to figure out day by day, right? Because music is not my full time gig, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have a day job
Yep.
where I make my money, and music is more for fun on the side.
Okay.
But on the open mic scene, I mean, the scene itself is just really great. There's a lot of really, really good people who are super supportive.
Yep.
And that actually kind of ties into my songs with unconventional structure, because a lot of it comes from, as I get off the stage, a lot of the local artists will say, you know, I think you should add this. I think they give you a lot of really good pointers. So actually, a lot of it comes from feedback from local people, which is fun.
Sure.
But anyway, I digressed away from your question.
No, it's
entirely
fine.
Forgot what it was.
It just kind of like, do you have an idea of what your next steps are?
Next steps,
you know?
yeah.
Yep.
So I will say 2-3 weeks ago, I did the featured artist slot at Dr. Brewlittle's.
Nice.
Which was super fun, right? It was a 45-minute slot. That's the first time I ever played more than, 3 or 4 songs in a row in a long time.
Yep.
And so that's really motivated me to definitely want to get out there and book a little bit more. Trying to return back to Brewlittle's and for like another featured set in January.
Nice.
And maybe some other. I know there's a lot of places that will do like 2 to 3 hour sets locally.
Yeah.
If I end up doing those, I don't have 2 hours of original music.
Yeah, I mean, most of those places, like I play the 3 hour sets all over the place, but I'm an acoustic cover musician. You know, I'll throw in 1 or 2 or maybe 3 of my original songs, but my entire set is all covers. The South Jersey music scene right now is very cover heavy. There's cover bands, there's tribute bands, there's solo acoustic cover musicians. Those are the types of musicians that I would say 90% of the venues book. However, with that being said, there is a pretty strong core group of original musicians that are coming up. Or like, you, Chuck M, Michael Songs, basically a lot of the folks that have been on this podcast and are going to be on the podcast in the future.
Like Shea Arthur, Pete Scavello. There's a lot of people, great people.
Tim Murray, TJ Fry, again, previous guests. And there are some folks that do both, right? You go out, you play the 3 hour cover gig, and then maybe you try to pick up like an original set somewhere. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, exactly.
So I think that's exciting for the local scene to see more original artists, coming up. Michael Songs has that thing that he's trying to do, where he's trying to put on, I don't know if they'd be considered showcases, but it's all original music.
Yep.
And a group of guys or girls get together and they learn each other's original music, and then they'll, book a show. And then in that 3-hour time frame, you might have 10 different musicians coming up and down, just playing each other's songs and stuff, right? Have you talked with Michael about being part of that at all? Or
I call them the super group because they're all super musicians.
They are. They're great.
Yeah, I did see them do their first their set at Brew Little's. Man, that was probably a month or two ago.
Yep.
And it was phenomenal, right? Like Michael kind of sold it, like, oh yeah, well, I'll do one of each person's songs, they'll do one of mine. It was just a band the whole time.
Yeah.
It was amazing. So yeah, I've been talking to them. I've been talking to quite a few local people about collaborations.
Nice.
To the point where I wonder if I'm overbooking myself, but collaborations are really fun.
Yeah.
Yep. You especially learning other people's original music, having them learn yours, or writing a song together. It kind of breaks you out of your comfort zone. You can say, I'm going to try something different, but as soon as you're in the room with a second person or more people, that breaks down walls that would still be up if you were alone.
That's true. There's
nothing super solid coming out of collaboration at the moment, but like, pay attention to the socials.
Very cool.
Future.
Yeah. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned next week.
The whole purpose of this podcast is really just to talk to local musicians, cover artists, original artists, everybody really. So everybody can kind of learn about each other. What do you want to play for us?
I'll do a song called Again. All my songs have one-word titles, and it just makes things really confusing, right? Because people are like, what song are you playing? And I'm like, Again. And they're like, you're playing it again? And it's like, no, the song's called Again.
What's that one about? If you don't mind me asking. I don't know.
Of course. They all got stories. So Again is about kind of getting yourself out of the state of living with your eyes closed. Being in a situation where you're not really fully being yourself, you're not fully feeling life, and kind of suddenly realizing, I don't have to do this. I could just stop doing that. I could just start being myself again.
Nice.
It was written at a point in my life where I'd kind of just done that.
Okay. All right.
So it's kind of meaningful to me.
Very cool.
The second song I'll attempt. It's got some technical guitar parts, and I just went rock climbing the other day, which was terrible. My forearms are still made of stone, but I'll attempt it. It's that one's called Okay, or Okay. Kind of a double okay.
All right.
Yep. Yeah, that one is about the idea of being really tired and burnt out, and kind of saying, there's a gig tonight, but like I don't know if I should go because I'm just so tired. And then you go anyway, and as soon as you get there, you're like, this was a great decision.
Nice.
I'm so happy I'm here. The adrenaline hits, you're happy, you're like, okay, let's go. Life's good.
Yeah, exactly.
For the next few hours at least.
Cool. Well, thanks for doing it. I appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me. This is super fun.
Good. I'm glad.
What you do day to day can make your insides go inside out numb. But just today I noticed the way my heart pounds in my chest. And I felt it every day for years and years. But today it just felt different. And I don't remember when I gave myself the okay to be me again. And I don't remember what it was that I was so afraid of back then. It's a part of me now, and it won't go away, but I won't forget where I was then and where I am again. How was I okay with spending the hours of my day chasing a moving unknown and always feeling unfulfilled? I felt it every day for years and years, but today I almost didn't notice it's gone. And I don't remember when I gave myself the okay to be me again. And I don't remember so afraid of back then. It's a part of me now and it won't go away, but I won't forget where I was then and where I am again. And when it slips away, I'll tell myself that it will be okay. Yeah, everything's okay. When it slips away, well, I'm not sure if it can be okay, but then it always is. Oh, but then it always is. Oh, but then it always is. Then it always is. Here's my song, Okay, Okay. I want to stay until the end, but I want to crawl into my bed. I've got the passion in my heart, but I've got the pain in my lower back. You know I love you, but I'm just feeling a bit burned out today. Are you okay with that tonight? What am I doing with my life? Am I just wasting time away? Am I okay with that? Am I okay with that? Words like words come straight from my soul, but then they barely fill the hole. Am I okay with that? Am I okay with that? And I keep saying I can't sing this, but I think it's time I do tonight. I will. I'm here and I'm okay with that tonight. I want to come in for a drink, but I'll walk away and overthink. When I want to crawl out of my skin, I'll listen to that song again. You know I love you, but I'm just feeling a bit burned out today. Are you okay with that tonight? What am I doing with my life? Am I just wasting time away? Am I okay with that? Am I okay with that? Words like words come straight from my soul, but then they barely fill the hole. Am I okay with that? Am I okay with that? And I keep saying I can't sing this, but I think it's time I do tonight. I will. I'm here and I'm okay with that. I'll head on out with you. Say I'm leaving early too. And suddenly it's 1 a.m. What am I doing here again? Oh, 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 well, I keep saying I can't sing this, but I think it's time I do tonight, yeah. I keep saying I can't sing this, but I think it's time I do tonight. I will. I'm here and I'm okay with that for once.
Right. Very good.
Thank you.
That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, that one's fun.
Good stuff.